Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to Greenville Motivating Senior Program. Amen. We've been so blessed. Last 6 months. Today is the last one. So thank you for joining with us. Let us pray. Let us pray for the opening. Dear God, thank you for this precious time together, and you've been blessed us last 6 months, and each month we have so many wisdoms and blessings from our special speakers. Lord, bless us again this morning as we listen special topic, hospice. Lord, this is not only the class, but this is the time of fellowship and building the relationship with our community. Lord, especially bless those who come from our community. Lord, be with them, comfort them as we have a special class. Thank you, Jesus. We pray in Jesus' name. People of God says, Amen, Amen, Amen. Thank you. Linda?
Thank you, Pastor Kim. Yes, this is the last one. I'm amazed, the last 6 months, we've had a program each month starting in May, and I want to thank all of you some of you have come to all of our programs, and I want to thank you and the congregation at Asbury for their support. I also want to thank some of the people that work behind the scenes to get this program, to put it together. We have 3 people that prepare lunch that I want to recognize. We have Kathy Holbert, we have Donna Egdorf, we have Beverly Moore, and they are the people that plan your menu and shop and feed you. Do the food prep after these programs. I want to thank David Todd. He's up in the balcony. These programs are live streamed and they'll be recorded, and there will be a tab on our church website, and you'll be able to find all of the programs that we presented through this program. Anyway, thank you again very much. Today, we have a very special speaker, Amy Scarlett from Community Hospice. I was so thrilled when she decided that she could make the time to come down and speak with us. Hospice is unfortunately so busy that they rarely have time to do presentations like this. Amy is, let's see, her official title. She is the Hospice Volunteer and Complementary Services person, right, Amy? And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. All right. Oh, one more thing, very important. I'm hoping that you will ask Amy questions. And when you do that, since we are recording, I'm going to hand you a microphone. All right, so you can use a microphone when you ask a question. Amy will repeat the question, and we'll just use that process. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. It's nice to see you. I appreciate being here and sharing my... Oh.
Check to make sure it's on, please.
That's not... That is, but that's what it was on before. Can you hear me? All right? No? Okay. How's this? Better? Okay. Okay. So again, I'm Amy Scarlett. I'm from Hospice, and I'm thrilled to be here. I have a passion for the subject, and I'm happy to share that with you. Kind of as a I think it's a fun anecdote. I don't know that you will, but I was at a Diwali party, Diwali celebration last weekend, and since not a lot of us knew each other, we stood in a circle, and the host said, share something interesting or funny about yourself. And so everybody's, talking about their hobbies and, I don't know, little stories, quips here and there. And I couldn't think of anything to say other than, I like to talk about death and dying. So it's not everybody's jam, but I think it's really important. We're all going to get there, and I'd like all of us to be able to do it well. So I think hospice is a great way to hope that we get there in the way that we want to. So I'll start with my my presentation. So let's see. Today's conversation is going to be about what exactly is hospice, some of the hospice myths that you might have heard out there in the community. How is a patient eligible? How does a patient become eligible for hospice? What we, the community hospice in particular, does, and we happen to be the only ones serving this community at the present time. What is referred to as an interdisciplinary group, which we'll talk a little bit more about. A little bit about end of life, and then complementary services, which is another one of the departments that I manage. Hospice volunteers, the impact of volunteering, and then we'll go into our questions and answers, which I hope that I have for you. So here's my big disclaimer. I am not a medical professional, so I cannot answer specific medical questions. My area of expertise is with the volunteer department and complementary therapy, but I've been with hospice for 19, almost 20 years now, so I do have a bit of experience in the field. So I will do my best, but don't get too technical on me. And if I do talk about any patients within this context, I will be changing names for HIPAA purposes. So the first thing I want to do, which I don't have slides for, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the pioneers of hospice. If you ever get the chance to watch a video called Pioneers of Hospice, Changing the Face of Dying, I strongly recommend it. It's dated now. I don't remember when it was first made, but it's just a great introduction to the folks that were instrumental in bringing hospice to the United States. So that you've probably heard of some of them anyway. Dame Cicely Saunders. She was trained initially as an RN and a social worker, and then through her work in the hospitals, she was seeing how people that were dying were treated. They were at the ends of the hallway, just down at the end of the hall where nobody could really pay attention to them, because people didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to care for somebody who was dying. So Dame Cicely Saunders decided, in gathering her knowledge as to what she was seeing, that she needed to become a physician to be taken seriously. So she did. She went back to school to become a physician. And then she started realizing or building a concept around total pain. So somebody's, not just their physical symptoms, but embracing the emotional side, the spiritual side, as well as the physical symptoms. So that became her life's mission and life work. She then, as this was all happening in 1967, in 1967, she opened St. Christopher's Hospice in England, which was part of the first, founded the first modern hospice movement with the opening of St. Christopher's. And she died in 2005. And then Florence Wald was another. Dame Cicely Saunders was definitely a spitfire. During this movie or video that I mentioned, you totally see her personality come out, and she was just a snappy woman. And Florence Wald was right alongside with her. She was a nurse. She was the clinical professor of nursing and former dean of Yale University of School of Nursing. and she was instrumental in helping to found that first hospice, the first hospice in New York State, or sorry, not New York State, in the United States in 1974. And she died soon, after Dame Cicely Saunders. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, you've undoubtedly probably heard of her. She's one of the best loved and most respected authorities on the subject of dying, death, and grief. And on Death and Dying is her most well-known book, as well as the 5 stages of grief. She died in 2004. And then Balfour Mount, which you may or may not have heard of, but he was considered the founder of palliative care in Canada. And he was instrumental also with this whole hospice movement. And he died actually just last month, so he was around for quite a while. He was only in, I think, 86, I think, at the time of his death. I wanted to mention a little bit about our local hospice history because it's pretty remarkable, I think. So in 1978, New York State legislature passes the first hospice law in USA, authored in Schenectady, down the road from us here. The first hospice insurance benefit announced by GE Company in Schenectady happened at that same time. And then soon thereafter, in 1979, St. Peter's Hospital opened the Hospice Inn. And in 1980, what was called Capital District Hospice began home care services. And so very interesting to me is that this was not that long ago, right? It's not that long ago, certainly within all of our lifetimes. In 1983, Capital District Hospice becomes the first Medicare certified hospice in USA, and that is a big deal. St. Peter's Hospice expanded into Rensselaer, Columbia, and Greene counties. And then the Capital District Hospice expanded more north to Saratoga and Montgomery counties. In 1997, both of those organizations merged to become the Community Hospice, which is what we are today. So, what is hospice? Hospice, again, jumping from Dame Cicely Saunders and her work or concept of total pain and total care, is the interdisciplinary group. And so that means that people from different facets, like the emotional, like the social worker, the physical, the nurse, the spiritual, the chaplain, that interdisciplinary group, plus it also includes volunteers and complementary therapists and our medical director and all that, we all come together to develop a plan of care based on the particular needs of the patient and the family. So, and that we'll talk a little bit more later, but it does include the family. The family is obviously very important. Patient is primary, secondary is the family. It is comprehensive, comfort-oriented services and compassionate attention. And it goes without saying, chokes me up because I think of all of our staff members that are out there in the field taking care of these patients day in, day out. They are some of the most compassionate and giving people that you could ever imagine. So I can just say that that is true. Some of the hospice myths. One is that hospice is reserved for cancer patients. That is not true. Only about a third of our census is comprised of cancer patients. We have lots of people with all kinds of dementia, Lewy bodies dementia, Alzheimer's, all that gamut, heart disease, Parkinson's, COPD, anything that's terminal is a possible hospice diagnosis. Hospice is for the last couple days of life. Again, that is a myth. In order to be deemed eligible for hospice, you have to have a life expectancy of 6 months or less. We encourage people to get on hospice early. If you're coming on hospice in the last days or weeks of life, we just can't get in there and do all that we need to do. or that we want to do, or that can be helpful for you. We can do a lot more if we get in there early. And that you have to go to a facility is also a myth. We will serve you in your home, whatever your home is, wherever it is in the 8 counties that we serve. Or if you live in a nursing home, we have contracts with particular facilities and are in many of the nursing homes around. Also a myth that patients cannot see their PCP. That's not true. As long as they can get out and go to the doctor, if they want to do so, they certainly can do that. They will also have the attention of our medical director in addition to that. So it's really an extra layer of care on top of everything for you. As I mentioned, hospice eligibility, patients have to have that prognosis of 6 months or less. They can't be seeking curative treatments any longer. And just to jump off that a little bit, are you familiar with palliative care versus hospice care? Palliative, chronic illness, and you can still be seeking curative means. Hospice, you're no longer seeking those curative means, but it's still a comfort care. You must be showing a decline, so maybe you're losing some weight, or maybe you're eating less and sleeping more, not able to do the things that you used to be able to do. And that is based on that palliative performance scale, which you probably can't read up there, and I can't even read it here, but it has to do with your activities of daily living, what you can and cannot do. Are you sleeping most of the time? Are you able to eat? Are you able to take care of your getting dressed and all of those kinds of things? Or what is your level of consciousness? So anywhere, we'll see people come on program anywhere from about 50%, sometimes 60, but mostly more like 50% and down. So 50%, somebody is still mainly sitting and lying down. They can't do any work. Does that say? Oh, so due to extensive disease. They considerable assistance needed with their self-care. They're eating normal or reduced amounts, and they may have a full level of consciousness or might have some confusion. And then it just goes down lower from there. And very often our patients are at 20%. That often means that they're transitioning closer to the end, and a 10% patient is very often actively dying. We would refer to as actively dying. So Community Hospice, we're a nonprofit organization, part of St. Peter's Health Partners. As I mentioned, we're in 8 counties, and so that is Saratoga, Washington, Montgomery, Schenectady, Albany, Rensselaer, Columbia, and Greene counties. And we have teams in all of those counties that cover those geographic regions. A little bit more about the role of the interdisciplinary group, or the IDG as we call it. As I mentioned, the hospice medical director, first we have a CMO, a chief medical officer, who has several, there's probably a half dozen medical directors that we have that cover our patients. Currently, just to give you an idea, we have 675 patients on program as of yesterday in all of our 8 counties. So those medical directors oversee those patients. There are home care teams for those patients that are at home. There are nursing home teams, those patients who are served by nursing homes. And each one of those home care and nursing home teams are comprised of the case manager, the social worker, the chaplain, and then possibly some LPNs or home health aides could be involved in a patient's care as well. Then the volunteer coordinator is part of the IDG, as are the volunteers, because you become part of the patient's care plan as well. I haven't mentioned that, in the beginning we did mention about the, getting the first Medicare charter here for hospice. Part of we have to meet Medicare guidelines and regulations, 24/7. And so one of those requirements is that we meet we have IDG, meaning like a team meeting about our patients every 2 weeks. So we sit together in a room, we review each patient. Everybody from the team is there, the medical director oversees this, and we discuss whether that patient still qualifies, is showing some sort of a decline, or maybe they've stabilized some, or maybe they've experienced a hospice bump, we call it, because they've just now they're receiving all this care in the home. They have that nurse coming in weekly, they have the social worker who's tending to their social needs, and the chaplain who's, praying with them or talking about the meaning of life for them. And they have the sport or the volunteer who might be coming in to play cards or whatever. And so they start to feel a little bit better and do a little bit better. So there sometimes is a bit of a bump. And then depending on the disease progression, that could, again, fall away. But those are the things that we discuss during the course of our IDG meeting. And Medicare, again, requires us to meet with about every patient for every 2 weeks. So it's truly a dedicated team of people to support people through the dying process, which is the main crux of it. So a little bit about the dying process. I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable either. So I know it can be a tricky conversation if you're not used to talking about it. But this book that is shown up here, Gone From My Sight, written by Barbara Carnes, is something that we give to each family member or family that comes on program. It spells it out the last, I don't know when she starts, maybe the last couple of months, then breaks it down to weeks and days of what you're going to see as a patient is nearing the end of their life. She does it in a very common way. It's really easy to read. It's something that I think that, like, we as employees, we kind of review every once in a while just because it's just it's a really good reminder, and then we can help families realize what they're seeing is normal. So changes can happen very slowly over time. It's certainly not as dramatic as you see in the movies. And everybody approaches death in their own way, just as we approach living, we approach dying in our own way as well. So some of the things that you'll see, just have a couple notes I just want to make sure I cover. As somebody is nearing the end, they're going to probably start to withdraw a little bit. Their energy, they don't have as much energy to interact with their extended family maybe, or their neighbors, or their greater community. They start to withdraw and only have the energy for those people that might be really close to them. And it doesn't necessarily mean like the one that they love the most is the one that they have the energy for. That's not necessarily the way that it's going to play out. I know that I have one person that I work with mentioned, I think it was her parent that was dying, and yes, it was her parent that was dying, and he didn't recognize her anymore, but he recognized his wife, or I think it was his spiritual leader. So that's who he was tied to at that moment, for whatever reason it was. And those are the kinds of things that you can't take it personally. It's just who that person has the energy for at that time, for whatever reason. They're gonna, at that stage, they're going to start eating less and drinking less. And that's something that we wrestle with, providing good education to families about eating and feeding a patient. We express love so often through food. We like that big pot of pasta or whatever it is, your homemade chocolate cake, and that your loved one, maybe they loved that when they felt well, and now they don't, and they can't their bodies can't process that any longer. So again, you cannot be offended by the fact that they don't want to eat it. Maybe they just want to smell it. Maybe that's enough for them right now. And you can show your love and your concern for them in a different way, other than trying to feed them by, rubbing a hand or brushing their hair, or whatever way that you can find meaning with them or provide them that love and care that you want. Go that route as opposed to shoving a spoon in their mouth, which happens, unfortunately. And it causes discomfort. If their bodies can't process that, that's really discomforting. Another thing that you'll see is disorientation, perhaps, or hallucinations. I'm sure you've seen or heard or watched somebody that is, might see one of their deceased loved ones sitting in the corner of the room at the end of their bed or something like that. Those are one of those things that we can't completely explain, but if you talk to any death professional, it happens, for sure, it happens, and you go with it, and you ask them about it. As long as it's not scary to them, it might be something that they want to share, talk about, or maybe it's something that they're just seeing and you're just witnessing that, and that's okay too. You might see somebody start to do some picking in the air, or picking and reaching, or again have some confusion, can't quite keep things straight any longer. You'll also start to see at the very end of life breathing changes. You might see some apnea where they stop breathing for a few seconds at a time and then take a big breath and then start again. So you have to know that that's normal and be okay and just sit and wait and watch. You'll also see modeling, so changes to the color of the skin, and it usually starts in the extremities, like down at the feet, and might work its way up to the knees or in the hands and up through the arms. That's a very, very common thing where, again, your body is working to keep the main part of you running. It doesn't need to be taking care of the extremities any longer. It's just working here, so that part is going to be warm. And you might have, and the patient may not feel cold or be cold, so pay attention to what it is they want. If you feel like you want to cover them up with a blanket or something because they feel cold to you, they may not feel that. Something else that flashed through my mind that I just forgot. Another thing, the muscles of the face relax. And so that can be, I think, a little disquieting, I guess, sometimes if you're not used to that too. So, somebody's mouth kind of hangs open. Their eyes don't necessarily close all the way either. So again, if you're not familiar with that, it can be uncomfortable. Let's see. So just a little bit about the struggles at the end of life, what makes it hard during this time period. Certainly physical pain and symptoms are what we care most about, really. We want to make sure our belief is in comfort for that patient, so we're going to do everything we can to make sure that they're comfortable. And in that process, I'll make sure I'm not going to talk about it later, I don't think so. As a segue, I mentioned before that hospice is not a place. It's something that it's a type of care as opposed to a place. And with that being said, somebody taking care of their loved one at home needs a lot of support and needs a lot of education, more than likely, if they're not a retired nurse or retired doctor or something like that that has had that kind of experience. So our desire is to get in there and educate them and train them and teach them how to change the bed linens under their patients so that they can do that properly. How to, wash them while they're in the bed, how to do whatever it is that they need to do to take care of their loved one. We are not there 24/7 unless they are in an inpatient unit, and there is the hospice or it's actually called the HIPU now at St. Peter's Hospital. And that is round the clock, you're in hospice care, the very end stages of life. But if you're at home, you're going to be relying on your caregivers. And hiring private hire, as you might know, is really difficult. It's really difficult to find people that are reliable and all that. But that is, so part of what we do is try to train the family and educate the family how to take care of them the best that they can, and then reach out for private assistance if they can afford to do so. Again, we also have the home health aides and the LPNs, and they also come into a patient's home generally anywhere between 1 and 5 days a week to help with ADLs and personal care that day. There might be some legal challenges people are facing at the end of life, and that, of course, runs the gamut from, wills to somebody young who's leaving children behind, or, it just all kinds of things. Again, finding round-the-clock care is difficult. It's really difficult. Spiritual questioning, that certainly is a big thing as people near the end of their lives. It's, what was the purpose here? What did my life mean? And that brings me to a little bit more about the chaplain. Our chaplains are non-denominational. Each one has their own spiritual background, but they practice in a non-denominational manner with our patients and their families. So they support them however they need to. And if we have somebody who's not religious or not even spiritual in any way, shape, or form, that's okay too, because there's something for them that provides meaning in their lives. And that's what our chaplains are there for. It doesn't have to be religious or spiritual. It can be, what is it that provides meaning to you? Is it music? Is it nature? What is it? And those chaplains are going to help you in that area. Sorry. Emotional distress. Again, that is something that would be right up our social work alley. We have wonderful social workers that do all kinds of work, from maybe connecting a family with resources like Meals on Wheels, or helping them to plan a service or get connected with whatever it is that they need. The social workers are great in that way. Another challenge or struggle at the end of life is loneliness or isolation. We have well, I don't know if I'd say a lot, but we have many folks who live alone, believe it or not, at the end of their life, living alone. Their family may be living across the country, or maybe there's nobody left anymore. And so they're really lonely. And that's a way, so first our staff is there and helps, alleviate some of that loneliness, we hope. But more so, that's where our volunteers come in to make some visits to provide some compassionate care. And then family coping, it's just a really hard time. It's a really, really, really hard time. And so another thing that the whole team will do is do like a family meeting. Maybe somebody's not quite on the same page as everybody else. There's, if you have a big family, maybe there's somebody that doesn't think their loved one should be on hospice, or maybe there's somebody that thinks that we shouldn't tell them they're dying, or whatever the weird little thing is going on in that family. Our team can come in and have a sit down, and in the hopes of getting everybody on the same page. Next, a little bit about our volunteer roles. I'll get emotional again if I talk about volunteers, because I just really feel like they're I think that I have probably one of the best jobs in hospice because I work with people who want to come and give of their time. And so how amazing is that? They want to come and sit with people who are dying. I just think that's beautiful and lovely. So the things that volunteers provide are respite, so the caregiver can get out of the home. Maybe they have to go get their hair cut. They haven't had their hair cut in 6 months or whatever. Or maybe they have a doctor's appointment. So they want somebody to stay at the home with the patient so that they can know that that person's in good hands while they go and take care of their own health. They can provide socialization and companionship, again, whether it's somebody that's lives alone or whether it's somebody that lives with their daughter who works all day, or whatever the case is. We also provide vigil visits, and so that is something that occurs when a patient is really close to the end, and a volunteer can go and sit bedside with the patient. This primarily happens in nursing homes, because that's who it was designed for, was patients in nursing homes that don't have any family support. And so our volunteers might go in and sit bedside for a couple of hours at a time and just be present with that patient as they near the end. It doesn't happen as much in homes. I think it's because the family tends to draw near at that time, and so there's a lot of family involved. But every once in a while, it will, and I think it's a way for somebody who has a little bit of experience to kind of normalize the situation for the people in the home, and to know that it's not an emergency. Like, it is not an emergency. It's okay. We're just going to take a breath and we're going to let this happen because this is what's going to happen. Our volunteers, we have some great people who do hair cutting on the side too, which is really wonderful. For those patients, most of our patients can't get out of bed. So to have somebody come in and cut their hair is wonderful. We're always looking for more hair cutters. Sometimes volunteers run errands or do household tasks. I have a volunteer a couple summers ago. We put in a couple of air conditioners together. He's like the handyman of the group. So that kind of thing. Or it could just be somebody that might need, hasn't felt up to dusting their living room. We could just come over and do a little bit of light housework for them. It's not something that we push. We're not advertising like deep cleaning by volunteers or anything like that. Just a little bit of help. We have our patients as they come on program. I didn't talk about it, and I don't know if I do, but our advanced directives, like our the MOLST form, medical orders for life-sustaining treatments. It's a bright pink form that you may be familiar with if you've had anybody who's got an illness like this. You have an opportunity to indicate how you want things to go for yourself, what kind of treatment you want as you're nearing the end. So that kind of a form, or a DNR, again, a do not resuscitate order, has to come to our office and then go to be signed by our doctor and then go back out to the patient homes. So we have a lot of volunteers that come up and pick up paperwork to take out to homes. And then there's administrative work that's often available too. We have, of course, we're computerized, everything's computerized, so we have some people that do some data entry for us. Sometimes there's mailings that need to go out, and so volunteers do that or might help facilitate a bereavement group. I'll talk about bereavement in a second. So who are our volunteers? So the first picture, I'll just tell you about these folks a little bit. Pat and Ann, they're sisters, and they both, Ann is in Montgomery County, and Pat is in Rensselaer County. And Pat's been volunteering for like dozens and dozens of years, and Ann is newer to the program. But the nice thing that Pat said, I think, it was, she said, I read to patients, play soothing music, and hold their hand. I've prepared lunch, performed light housekeeping, and colored with them for hours. Pat says she helped one patient pick out what he wanted to wear for his burial. It's been wonderful to be present and to be assistance to patients and families when they need it most. to enter their lives at a time when others may choose to stay away is an honor and a blessing. So that's to give you an idea how people feel about the work that they do. Suzanne is another really wonderful volunteer. She's up in our Saratoga region. I thought what interesting about what she said was she was working with a young gentleman who had had an accident, I think it was a skiing accident, and ended up with severe brain damage. So even though most of their visits were silent, what moved her, me to this day, it was the appreciation he expressed simply for their time together. Just to be present with somebody is really, really lovely. We're really blessed to have some medical students come our way. So through Albany College of Pharmacy, I get lots of folks that come, I shouldn't say lots, but many folks that come through their program wanting some hospice experience. And so Keon is one of them. It's really been surprising to me. I don't know if you're familiar with St. Margaret's in Albany. It's basically a nursing home for children. Some go as babies, or some when they have some kind of a tragic accident that causes them to need that 24 care are there. So for me, it would not be a place that I could easily visit. And here this young guy is going, and he's doing a great job being with patients there. Kathy is one of our pet therapy volunteers. So she has a wonderful dog. I can't remember the dog's name, but she has a wonderful dog, and everybody loves a dog. It's just the way to everybody's heart. And then Sydney is a Skidmore student, and she started not so long ago either, but she's wanting to just give back to her community and make sure that people feel, have some fun at the end of their lives. So what are the requirements to be a volunteer? First, there is a training. It is a pretty extensive training, I'm not gonna lie. We do 2 in-person full-day sessions in our New Kearney Road, Albany location, 2 Saturdays from 9 to 4, I think it is. And then we're doing 1 virtual session. So all in all, I guess that's about 20 hours, I wanna say, something around that. And then there's some work to do outside of our classroom times. And I'll tell you that my spiel when I'm introducing everybody to what we do for the training, we talk about a lot of the things that we talked about here, but in greater depth and detail, obviously. And then we talk about things that are important for volunteers to be comfortable with. Boundaries is a big one. Communication, and then self-care. We're definitely big on self-care. It can be a heavy job, just because it's an emotional job, but it's also so rewarding, or I couldn't have done it for the last nearly 20 years, really. It's just so rewarding that it makes every minute worth it. So the other piece that makes our training a little bit different is the fact that we delve into facing our own mortality. So we try to put ourselves in the space of our patients, so that once you get out there with the patient, you have a little bit more knowledge as to what this might feel like for them. So that piece is tricky. I won't give you too many details. Anyway, it's also really worth doing. And the last class, one of our college young women, really, really, really had a hard time through this meditation. And we don't do it to see who's going to break. I mean, that's not our desire. But she was breaking. It was kind of heartbreaking to see her. She was just really having a hard time, and I went over to her and talked to her afterwards. And she was okay. She was okay. And then we do a kind of a follow-up chat once all the clearances done and whatever, and we asked, what was the best part of the training for you, or what was impactful for you. She said that particular activity. So we're like, yes, it does work. So, great. There are health requirements to meet. You have to have a physical that's been done within the last year, and then we look at your vaccination records also. You have to have 2 MMRs. And then the flu and COVID, you have to have either a flu shot or a declination stating that you're not going to have the flu. And COVID is not a thing for us right now. There's also obviously a background check, and there's we call it a sanction check that's run every month on our volunteers. So we try to encourage people that if they don't just fade into the night and not say that you're not volunteering with us anymore, because it costs us money to keep you on our roster. So if you're ready to go and that's okay, let us know. We also give you the opportunity to shadow some experienced volunteers, and that's great to be able to go out with some people that have been doing it for a while, feel really comfortable, and I feel like everybody has their own kind of style, I guess based off our own personalities. And so it's really nice to be able to shadow with a couple of different people to see what they do. And then you can kind of take from here and there and see whatever makes it your own. And then we offer and require volunteers to receive continued education. We offer in-services through the course of the year. You have to complete 2 of them. It's not a big deal. Like, you can read an article and it can be enough of that. But we offer things like, in a couple weeks we're doing another segment on ALS. We did Alzheimer's recently, and what was the other one we did? I can't remember. But anyway, those kinds of things. Benefits of volunteering. My guess is you probably have all done some volunteering in your own lives. We would certainly welcome you to do some more with us. And you know how good it makes you feel to do a little something for other people. It's definitely proven to improve your well-being, increase life satisfaction, the length of your life, reducing depression, brain shrinking, and increasing your self-esteem. This is somebody else made this presentation for me and stuck this in, but every year we each department, the volunteer department and the complementary therapy department, but we try to do like a retreat day for a self-care thing. And so this was just something that was taken at one of our retreats. But the volunteer coordinators are responsible for recruiting, screening, training, and supporting volunteers. I think I mentioned we have about 200 in all of our 8 counties. And then we get the privilege of matching volunteers with patients. We learn what we can about the patient. We learn all that we can about our volunteers. We get to know them pretty well through the course of, we have an interview, and then through the course of the training when we spend a lot of time together. And then so that we'd like to know what your interests are so that we can match a patient with you going forward. So that's, and when that match is a good one, there's nothing better. We are part of the IDG piece and communicate with each team member as needed. And then we look to retain our volunteers. We provide a volunteer appreciation event each year, as well as the in-services and things like that. Another piece about that's really important to us is honoring our veterans. So we have a veteran program. It's called We Honor Veterans, and you have to achieve certain levels of this program. I think we're on the 3rd or the 4th level, I can't recall now. But so in the midst of that, what we make sure that we do is identify each patient who is a veteran. Cindy, from that picture before you saw behind me, she's the one that heads this part of our program up. She identifies the patient, she makes a certificate for each veteran, and we have amazing volunteers who make red, white, and blue handmade blankets for us, like crocheted or knitted or the stuff that I can't do. So we have these beautiful blankets that come into us. We have another volunteer who preps them by tying them with a ribbon, and we put a flag in there and a pin, and it's just a really nice presentation. And if a staff member is going there to take it right out, phenomenal. But if not, we love to use volunteers to go and deliver these blankets to patients too. And I get somebody just delivered one yesterday. I'm trying to remember what the word was that she used after it was her she's a brand new volunteer. It's the first thing that she's done, and she took out a veteran blanket to somebody. And again, I can't remember what the exact word was, but it was just, I think it was like so moving or something like that. And it truly is. It truly is. So again, the veteran piece is really, really big for us. In the interest of time, I will just tell you, music and massage therapy are the big pieces of the complementary services that are available. We have a wonderful staff of people who are all mostly part-time, a couple full-time folks who visit with patients to either massage or play music. I'd like to tell you more about music, but I won't right now. And then something I do want to make sure that I cover is our bereavement services. So that's a whole nother arm of what community hospice does, and most people aren't aware of our bereavement services, but our bereavement services are available to anybody in our communities who has been touched by death, and it doesn't have to be by somebody that's been on hospice. If there was somebody that you know that was in an accident or suicided or something like that that was not on our program, and you need support, please call Community Hospice. We have great bereavement counselors that can help. Another thing that our bereavement counselors do is go out to schools when there's something tragic that happens. Maybe recently a teacher died, so our counselors go right out there to talk to whoever needs it and put on presentations or whatever. So we're out there. Bereavement services are free to anybody that comes. So please take advantage of those if you'd like to, if you need to. We do have support groups also that are available. I don't know what's running right now, but we have in the past had like a daughters group, or I can't think of the other names of them, but different categories of support groups. Another thing that our bereavement team does is Camp Erin, which is a free weekend camp for kids between the ages of 6 and 17, and they come from, we've had them come from like the New York City area up to Camp Fowler in the Adirondacks. It's a camp that runs and it's again free of charge to those participants, from a Friday to a Sunday, and it is life-changing for these kids. They sleep in cabins, they do fun camp-type activities like camp sing-alongs and making s'mores and things like that, but then they also process their grief in some really amazing and touching ways. And then the Wave Riders program is something that's ongoing in different offices, and those are 6-week programs for kids as well. And so the impact of hospice on me or on volunteers, really, this is kind of a general thing, but I agree. You do think a little bit more about death, as I mentioned. And I think we all become a little bit more intentional in what we're doing. More time in the moment, for sure. Putting more effort into the relationships and activities we care about. And it's a great way to learn new skills, too. All right. Questions? That was a lot of stuff. What can I answer for you? Yes?
You mentioned you have meetings every 2 weeks for the Medicare reviews. What happens if Medicare denies? Does a secondary insurance take over, like Blue Shield or CDPHP? Do they take over to payment?
So Medicare, so maybe I worded that incorrectly. So Medicare requires us, that's kind of two separate things, I guess guess is what I'm trying to, oh, I didn't repeat your question. Medicare, you're asking about Medicare not reimbursing for services and maybe it kicking to a secondary insurance. So, I think what I said was a little bit misleading in the sense that Medicare, I was talking about what Medicare requires of us, community hospice. They require us to have those bi-weekly meetings about patients. Medicare is a hospice, hospice is a Medicare benefit. Medicare does not decline a charge like that. If anything were to come back on the Medicare side, it would be totally a hospice error. Maybe we didn't chart properly or something like that. And I've seen, we've had to answer calls like that. But there should not be anything charged to a patient or their family. And that would come right, if so, that would be something that they would bring it to the attention to their care manager, and then it would go through our offices. Yes, up here.
Who do you contact to volunteer?
Me. Who do you contact to volunteer? That would be me. And I have some, this silly thing was I didn't bring any cards with me, but I do have some things here for you. There's a list here of different types of volunteer opportunities, so I encourage you to take that with you. There's also my kind of form letter that I send out to anybody that's interested, and this one has the dates of our next training. Our next training starts in January. It's January 24th, 29th, and the February 7th. So so the 24th and the 7th would be at New Carner Road in Albany, which is about 47 minutes, I believe, from here when I clocked it. And then Thursday, the 29th, would be virtual. So we just do it on the computer. So that's up here if you want to take a look at that. And attendance at all sessions is required. It is required. There's just too much. We can't record things well, or we certainly can't do that for the Saturday sessions. Those are really, really important. The other one, less so. But the volunteer training has, it's unique in a lot of ways. Of course, there's a wealth of information that it's just so much to impart to you, but there's also so much camaraderie that develops. We're talking about pretty intimate and personal stories are shared, wishes are spoken about, and there's just something that happens during that group. And so it's really required that you come to everything. There's also an application up here. An application is required for everybody. And then if you're not interested in the volunteering part, but more interested in somebody that might benefit from our services, there are a couple things. There's this one I think is good, When to Call Hospice. On the back it just lists some of the things to think about, like frequent hospitalizations, generalized weakness, trouble swallowing, those kinds of things, just to name a few.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How is hospice funded? Is it state funding, federal funding? I know there's donations.
So good question. That jumps back to the whole Medicare. We're Medicare reimbursed. So we're Medicare reimbursed for any of our services except for bereavement services and complementary therapy services. Complementary therapy services and bereavement are all funded through donations. So that's why we do a big hospice walk in June, and then have different galas and things throughout the course of the year to raise money for those two things, plus our wish fund. And our wish fund is something that we're able to delve into. If somebody has, a couple of years ago, I know we took somebody down to New York City. I can't remember what they wanted to do, but they, wanted to go down to New York City for some event or something. There was somebody, I think in this region actually, that went skydiving a couple of years ago also. Wow. So those kinds of things, if we can arrange something like that, we'll absolutely attempt to do that. So Medicare and donations.
I have another question. If I was involved with someone who needed hospice care, we're down in Greene County. Do we call the Greene County Hospice, Community Hospice, or how would that work?
You could, but you would just be transferred to our, I think the central intake, we call it, is out of the New Carter Road office. We do have the office in Catskill, and I'm down here every Tuesday. I'm in the Catskill office. You can call there, but they would circle you right up to our central intake at New Carter Road. And then from there, something I didn't mention is that in order to be eligible, you have to have anybody can make a referral for hospice. It could be your loved one, or you could talk to your doctor, and the doctor can make the referral. But if your doctor's not moving or hasn't done what you've asked, or whatever it might be, you can call. Anybody can call and make a referral, and then our folks look to speak with a doctor, and they make sure that doctor is on board, and then they have to also get the certification from our doctor. Both have to see that this patient is within 6 months. Another thing, see, there's so much information to say, but another thing is, so they have to be deemed 6 months or less at the time of admission, but there's people that are on our program sometimes for a year, 2, 3 years, sometimes, because every time they are recertified, we look at them and say, well, they're declining. From this point, they are showing a decline. From this point, I think they might have 6 months. And then the next time they're certified, which is 60 or 90 days later, they could be at that same point where they're still showing a little bit of decline. Some of those diseases, really, really, really take a long time. Did I answer what you asked me? Sorry.
Can you be in hospice and then go out of hospice and
Absolutely.
go back into hospice?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And people graduate from hospice too. So you can graduate from hospice so they don't see any more decline. If the doctor says, nope, they seem to be pretty stable. Stable is not a good hospice word. So if somebody is stable for a longer period of time, they're going to graduate. And we wish them well, and we say, come on back when you need us. Or, what was the other one? Just coming off. Sometimes we have a young woman in this area who started to feel better, and she wanted to pursue treatment. And she's got every right to do that. So, okay, she's off of hospice, on to pursue treatment. And again, when she needs us, we're here. So yes, absolutely. We're not rushing anybody towards the end here. We aren't.
Who would we contact for bereavement care visits?
You can call the hospice New Carter Road number too. I can tell you that number if it's easier, if you want to write it down or anything, or I can share it with you, but it's 518-724-0200. Very simple. 724-0200. Just the main hospice number, and let them know that you're interested in bereavement services. They'll connect you with our bereavement facilitator, who will talk a little bit about to you what your needs are, and then funnel you to the right person.
And you mentioned even if the person that passed was not in hospice care.
Yes, but I also have to put a asterisk on that they're not going to see somebody whose loss was like 5 years ago. That's a different, a different need. But if the need was in the last year, absolutely.
Yeah, it was back in June. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Please call. Yes, thank you.
Anybody else?
Sure.
You were saying that it's the Medicare. My wife's retired from the state. We have the Empire Plan. Would the Empire Plan have anything to do with the hospice?
She's on Medicare.
Excuse me?
She's on Medicare. Empire State the Empire Plan being part of Medicare.
She's on Medicare
Yes.
and the Empire Plan.
Yep, it's all covered. All covered.
Any other questions? Tough topic to think about and talk about. And we have, I hope you'll take some of these handouts. Maybe some of you are interested in becoming a volunteer. And we have a luncheon prepared in the Carney Center right next door. So hopefully you'll join us for lunch.